Why did the first bullet feel more like a question than an answer? Pressed herself into the shadow of the concrete wall, heart hammering so loud she was certain the men hunting her could hear it. The sniper rifle in her hands was heavier than anything she'd ever carried in her life, yet in that moment it felt like the only thing tethering her to reality. Hours earlier, she'd been nothing more than a college student cramming for an exam. Now, the lives of 6 Navy SEALs depended on her. She hadn't chosen this fight. The fight had chosen her. But the story didn't start here. 12 hours earlier, sunlight spilled across the campus of Portland State University, painting the glass windows in gold. On the 4th floor of the library, sat alone at her usual corner table, her laptop glowing with lines of organic chemistry reactions. Her eyes stung from lack of sleep, but her focus was sharp. Exams were tomorrow. Her GPA, her future, rested on this. She was 21, a biochemistry and pre-med double major with a psychology minor, a perfect 3.9 GPA, and volunteer hours logged at the hospital. Her chestnut hair was tied back in a no-nonsense ponytail, and her sweatshirt still smelled faintly of the detergent from home. The plan was clear: excel, graduate medical school, and then Doctors Without Borders. Heal the world. That was the life her parents had envisioned for her, and she had believed in it too. Her phone buzzed, a text from Sarah, her roommate. Study group at Mike's tonight. Pizza and practice problems. Carbonyl reactions are killing us. Smiled, her thumbs tapped back. Can't need to understand this stuff before I practice it. Rain check. That was her, independent, methodical, unwilling to do anything halfway. At home, her parents lived in a solar-paneled house surrounded by vegetable gardens and books about peace. Doctor taught international relations. Dr. David specialized in conflict mediation. They believed in nonviolence, diplomacy, the inherent goodness of people. Their daughter had been raised in a bubble of dialogue and optimism. They named her after West, a writer who stood against war, hoping their own child would heal rather than harm. But there had always been a secret, a crack in the idealism. Her grandfather, William Iron Bill, had once been a Marine sniper. To her parents, he was a reminder of everything they opposed: war, violence, sacrifice. Too, he was something else entirely. She remembered the smell of gun oil mixed with old leather in his workshop, the way he called her little bird as he adjusted her stance. Summers on his ranch were supposed to be about horseback riding and nature walks. Instead, she learned how to breathe with the wind, how to wait for stillness between heartbeats, how to let her body dissolve into the rifle until the trigger broke like glass under steady pressure. By 18, she could hit steel at 800 yards. She never told her parents. She never told anyone. It was her rebellion, her secret inheritance. Now, bent over a chemistry textbook in a quiet library, none of that mattered. She thought she'd buried that part of herself, until the phone rang. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something, curiosity, fate, instinct made her swipe. Hello. The voice on the other end was gravel, aged and steady. Is this? She froze. Yes, who is this? Colonel James Harrison, United States Navy. I'm calling about your grandfather. Her pulse spiked. Is he okay? He's fine, the colonel replied. But he gave me your number, said you might be able to help us with a situation. We need someone with very specific skills. He seems to think you have them. His chair creaked as she sat back. I don't understand. Are you familiar with the concept of Overwatch? The word struck her like a memory. Her grandfather explaining the role of the unseen guardian, the sniper who watches from above, who keeps others alive by removing threats before they appear. Yes, she admitted slowly, but I'm not military, I'm just a college student. Sometimes the best person for the job isn't the one you'd expect. Right now, 6 Navy SEALs are trapped 15 miles from your campus, surrounded, pinned down. They won't survive the next hour without Overwatch. Our nearest trained sniper is 4 hours away. Laughed nervously. You have the wrong person. I don't even own a rifle in Portland. "We can provide the equipment," the colonel said. Then his tone softened. "Miss, your grandfather saved my life twice in Korea. He said you've got the steadiest hands he's ever seen on a rifle range. He believes you can do this. And if you don't, 6 good men are going to die." Her stomach clenched. She stared at her chemistry notes, the neat rows of reactions, the life she had built with careful precision. This couldn't be real. This wasn't her world. "I can't," she whispered. "I'm sorry." "Then let me ask you this," Harrison said quietly. "If you were trapped, if you were outnumbered, wouldn't you want someone to help if they could?" The question lodged in her chest. For all her parents' lessons about peace, what about the moments when peace failed, when words weren't enough? Her voice shook. "What's happening?" A SEAL team stumbled into something bigger than a smuggling operation. They're pinned in a warehouse by hostile forces, 12, maybe 15 men, including a sniper. One of our guys is already wounded. They won't make it unless someone takes that shooter out. We'll get you into position. All you need to do is hold the line until extraction. Closed her eyes. She saw her grandfather's hands guiding hers, heard him whispering about duty, about protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. She opened her eyes. "Who are these men?" "SEAL Team 7, Harrison said. "Lieutenant Jake Harmon, their commander. Chief, he's got a 13-year-old daughter at home. Petty Officer Miller already hit once. 3 more. All good men. All counting on someone who can give them a fighting chance." His chest tightened. She thought about the daughter waiting for her father, about the men who had families, who trusted each other with their lives. She took a breath that felt like stepping off a cliff. "Tell me what I need to do." 40 minutes later, she was in the passenger seat of a black SUV, leaving behind the familiar streets of Portland. The driver, Petty Officer Santos, barely spoke except to brief her. 12 to 15 hostiles armed with rifles and at least one sniper, SEALs trapped with dwindling ammo. Politics made reinforcements impossible. By the time help arrived, it would be too late. Stared out at the darkening sky. She should have been studying resonant structures. Instead, she was speeding toward a battlefield. At a makeshift command post near the target, Colonel Harrison met her. His steel-gray eyes studied her like a gamble he wasn't sure he should make. On the tactical table lay the weapon, a M82A1, its massive frame a far cry from the .22 rifles of her childhood. The kind of rifle that could punch through concrete, the kind of rifle that ended lives with authority. "This is a 50 cal, Harrison explained. "Semi-automatic, effective beyond 800 meters. Scopes got thermal imaging. The enemy snipers got them locked down. One clean shot can change everything. But this isn't a range. If you do this, you'll be killing a man." The words landed heavier than the rifle. Her parents' voices screamed in her mind. Every problem can be solved with words. Every life is sacred. But in the background, through the crackle of a radio, she heard the SEAL's commander reporting. "Low ammo, 2 wounded, enemy pressing closer." Swallowed. "Show me the position." They moved her into place. She lay prone, the braced, the scope painting the night in shades of heat and shadow. Across 600 meters, a muzzle flash betrayed the hostile sniper's perch. She centered him in her crosshairs, steadying her breath. Her hands didn't shake, not yet. "Overwatch, this is Reaper Actual," the SEAL commander's voice came through. "We're going to draw his fire. When he shows, you've got 5 seconds. Copy." His mouth was dry. "Copy." "Stand by, Mark." Gunfire lit up the night. The hostile sniper answered, his position flaring. Through the scope she saw him clearly, a figure crouched behind sandbags, confident, lethal. Her heartbeat slowed, breathing in, holding halfway, finding the stillness, just like Iron Bill taught her. Only this time the target wasn't a steel plate. This was a man. Her finger tightened on the trigger. And in that breathless moment before the shot, she realized nothing about her life would ever be the same again. How many lives can one trigger pull change? The kicked against shoulder, the echo cracking across the night. Through her scope she watched the figure jerk, collapse, and lie still. A voice broke the silence in her headset, rough but controlled. "Overwatch, this is Reaper. Target down, outstanding shot." The relief in his words should have been hers too, but instead felt the breath catch in her chest, her stomach twist. She had ended a life. Her parents' voices echoed in her mind, every problem has a peaceful solution. But she couldn't deny the truth. 6 men were alive because she had killed one. Colonel Harrison's low murmur reached her ear. That was one hell of a shot under pressure. Before she could answer, the radio flared again. Lieutenant Harmon's tone was urgent. "Command, this is Reaper Actual, perimeter movement. Hostile reinforcements inbound. At least 10. They're setting up a net around our position." Stomach dropped. The shot had only been the beginning. Harrison cursed softly and leaned over the tactical map, his finger tracing hostile positions. "Extraction birds 40 minutes out. Too long. They'll be surrounded." His eyes cut toward. "Unless we hold them off." Hold them off? Her, a 21-year-old college student who should be cramming for biochemistry instead of calculating wind drift for bullets that could end men's lives. His voice was small but steady. "What do you want me to do?" "Stay in the fight," Harrison said. "We move you to higher ground. You pick off their perimeter, machine gunners, RPGs, command elements. Break their net so our boys have room to maneuver." The weight of it pressed against her ribs. One shot had been a moral cliff. But 4, 5, this wasn't an accident anymore. This was war. And yet she thought of Chief's daughter waiting at home for her father. She thought of the voices she had heard through the headset, men bruised, bleeding, but refusing to give up. They were more than call signs. They were fathers, brothers, sons. Tightened her grip on the rifle. "Okay, tell me where." Minutes later, she was in a half-built office tower, the heavy against her shoulder as she climbed broken stairs. From the 6th floor, she had a commanding view. Through her thermal scope, the warehouse glowed with the heat signatures of SEAL Team 7 inside. Around them, hostile shapes moved, 15, maybe more, organizing with a discipline that sent a chill down her spine. These weren't street criminals. They moved like soldiers. "Overwatch to Reaper," she whispered. "I'm in position." "Copy," Harmon replied. His voice was calm but edged with exhaustion. "We're hanging by a thread." Chief took a round to the shoulder. "Miller's patching him, but supplies are gone. We need time." His eyes scanned the perimeter. "Give me targets." "North side, machine gun team setting up. If they lock that in, we're finished." She found them 2 men unrolling a belt-fed monster. Her crosshairs hovered over the first. Breath in, breath out, pause. The thundered. The gunner dropped. The second man lunged for the weapon. Another shot. Another body crumpled. His breath hitched. 2 more, too fast, too easy. "Machine gun team neutralized," she reported, her voice barely steady. "Outstanding, Overwatch. East side now. They're moving RPGs into place." Swung her scope. 3 men, shoulders bent under the weight of launchers. She fired. One fell. The others scattered. She tracked another, caught him in her crosshairs, squeezed. Down. The last vanished behind cover. 2 down, 1 unaccounted, she reported. Her scope lingered on one body. The man wore a military-style jacket. On his sleeve, foreign insignia, Cyrillic lettering. Her chest tightened. "These aren't smugglers," she said. "I see Russian patches." Silence followed. Then Harmon's voice, grim. "That matches what we saw, chemical components in the crates, not smugglers, a cell." His throat went dry. She wasn't just saving 6 men. She was standing between the city and a chemical attack that could kill thousands. Her revelation ended as bullets ripped into the building around her, chunks of concrete exploding. The hostiles had spotted her muzzle flash. The air filled with the whine of rounds zipping past. "Overwatch, they've got your position," Harmon barked. "Move." Scrambled from the window, ducking as glass shattered. Her lungs burned, her legs screaming as she bolted for the stairwell. Shouts echoed below, harsh words in Russian. They were already in the building. Her pulse surged. She was trapped. "Reaper," she hissed into the radio. "Hostiles inside my building. Copy Overwatch. Fire escape on the west side. Can you reach it?" She scanned the floor plan in her mind. Maybe, if she moved quiet. Her grandfather's voice whispered in memory. "Move like water. Quiet fluid. Let the world pass by without noticing." She crept down a hall, boots whispering on concrete, the rifle tight in her arms. Below, voices grew louder, boots pounding stairs. She glanced around desperately. That was useless in close quarters. She needed a diversion. Her eyes caught a pile of rubble. She snatched a chunk of concrete, hurled it against a steel beam. The clang echoed like a bell. The shouts below shifted, boots turning, moving toward the sound. Counted 10 heartbeats, then she ran. The fire escape loomed ahead, rusted and trembling. She slipped onto it, each creak a scream of betrayal. The night air hit her face as she descended, keeping to the shadows until her boots touched earth. "Overwatch to Reaper," she whispered, breath ragged. "Clear of the building, moving to new position." "Copy," Harmon replied. "And Overwatch, thank you." Pressed herself against the cold brick of a nearby factory, her chest tight with something she couldn't name. Gratitude, fear, pride, all tangled together. Inside her headset, a weak voice broke in. "This is Chief. They told me you're the one out there, the one keeping us alive." Froze. "My little girl's graduation is next month," rasped. "I promised I'd be there. You're helping me keep that promise. I won't forget it." Tears stung her eyes. She blinked hard, her voice breaking as she answered. "You'll be there, Chief, I promise." For a moment, she wasn't a sniper. She wasn't Overwatch. She was just a daughter hearing the weight of another father's love, and it was enough to steady her hand. She climbed to a new perch inside the factory, scanning through her thermal scope. The hostiles weren't retreating. They were regrouping. Smoke grenades hissed, cloaking the approaches. Through the haze, she saw the heat of bodies moving with purpose. "Reaper, they're preparing a coordinated assault," she reported. "Multiple teams, northeast, south, and west." "Copy, southwest's our weak point. If they breach, we're done." Crosshairs found the lead man in the southwest team. Difficult meters, smoke interference. She adjusted the scope, compensating for drift, heart beating slow and steady. The cracked, the man fell. She swung to the second carrying breaching tools. Another thunderous shot. Down. "Southwest team neutralized," she reported. "Copy that, Overwatch, we owe you." The gratitude was brief. Gunfire erupted from inside the warehouse, short bursts echoing. Heart lurched. "Reaper status," she demanded. Silence for endless seconds, silence. Then Harmon's voice, ragged but alive. "4 hostiles down, 2 retreated, we're holding." Exhaled shakily, her finger tight on the trigger. They were still alive, for now. Through her scope, she spotted new movement, a rooftop glint. She shifted instantly, instincts screaming. The crack of a rifle tore the air. A round slammed concrete inches from her head. Ducked, breath tearing from her throat. "Reaper, they've got a sniper," she hissed. "Be careful," Harmon warned. "These guys are trained." Her grandfather's voice whispered again. "When another hunter is watching you, the best move is the one they don't expect." Steadied her hands, brought the scope back up, scanning shadows. Then she saw him, a figure shifting slightly behind glass, just enough of a mistake. She squeezed the trigger. The hostile sniper flew back in a spray of glass. "Enemy sniper down," she reported, her voice colder than she felt. And in the silence that followed, realized she had taken her 4th life tonight, a line she could never uncross. What does courage feel like when it isn't loud? For it was silence. The silence after her 4th kill. The silence in her headset before Harmon's voice finally broke through. "Outstanding, Overwatch. Eastern teams at our perimeter. If they breach, it's going to get bloody in here." Adjusted her scope. 6 hostiles moved in the smoke toward the warehouse's side door, Too many to stop all at once. Her pulse quickened. Reaper, she whispered, I can't drop them all before they get inside. Prepare for close contact. We've got a kill zone set, Harmon replied. If they come through, we'll make them regret it. Through her scope, she saw one hostile press a charge against the door. Her warning caught in her throat as the explosion tore through the night. The blast rattled her chest even from hundreds of meters away. Gunfire erupted inside, controlled bursts deafening in her headset. His finger hovered on the trigger, useless. She couldn't see inside. Reaper status, she pleaded. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then Harmon's voice, breathless but steady, 4 down, 2 retreated, we're holding. Relief washed over her, but it carried no peace. Every shot inside that warehouse had been inches from failure. She shifted her scope, scanning the complex. That was when she saw it, headlights. A larger vehicle rolling in, unloading men with heavy weapons. Machine guns, maybe worse. Reaper, she reported, they're bringing in something big, mounted weapons. Copy, Harmon answered grimly. Our cover won't last against that kind of firepower. Crosshairs found a man standing apart, giving orders. Unlike the others in tactical gear, he wore civilian clothes, expensive, even here. The way the others obeyed him marked him as a leader. I think I see their commander, she whispered. If you can take him, it might break their coordination. Swallowed, the shot was long 700 meters and he was moving. She tracked him, waiting. Then he paused, pulling out a device, a phone, a detonator. Her breath stilled, she squeezed. This roar rolled across the complex. Through the scope, she saw him fall, the device tumbling from his hand. Target down, she reported. But instead of scattering, the hostiles accelerated. Urgency burned through their movements. One scooped up the fallen device, zoomed in. A digital timer glowed. Reaper, she said, her throat tight. The leader had some kind of timer or detonator. It's running. Harmon's reply came sharp, grim. That matches what we found earlier. Chemical dispersal devices, if that timer's active. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. His chest went cold. The nightmare wasn't just about the men in the warehouse. It was about a weapon that could kill thousands if deployed. Before she could dwell on it, Harrison's voice broke in. All stations, Guardian Force Recon inbound. ETA 15 minutes. Overwatch, your priority is clearing the path for Reaper to link up. Scan the northwest corner, the designated extraction zone. 200 meters of open ground. 3 enemy positions covering it with lethal precision. That's a lot of ground, she said quietly. That's why we need you, Harrison answered. She pressed her cheek to the stock. Copy, beginning clearance. Her first targets, a 2-man team behind a concrete barrier. She dropped the first cleanly. The second ducked, then curiosity betrayed him. A second shot slammed him backward. First position clear, she reported. Copy, Harmon replied. We're moving. He's stable enough to walk with help, but slow. Shifted, the second position, a security booth, 3 men inside. She fired 3 times, 2 hits, 1 survivor diving into cover. The survivor's radios crackled. She saw him gesture toward her building. They knew. Bullets ripped into her position. Windows shattered. Concrete splintered. The building shook with a deafening blast as an RPG slammed into 2 floors below. Dust choked her lungs. Overwatch status, Harmon shouted. She coughed, dragging air into burning lungs. Still here. RPG hit lower floors, positions compromised, hostiles entering. The stairwell echoed with boots. They were coming for her. Panic clawed at her ribs. She was cornered. Her grandfather's voice whispered from memory, when the path is blocked, improvise. His eyes darted across the room, and then she saw it, the construction chute, a heavy plastic tunnel funneling debris into a dumpster below. Her only chance. She slung the across her back, shoved herself into the chute, and gravity seized her. The plastic burned her skin, debris clattering with her descent. She shot out the bottom, landing in a dumpster with a bone-jarring crash. Pain flared through her body. She gasped, listening. Shouts above. They'd found her abandoned perch. "Overwatch, do you copy?" Harmon's voice was taut. "I copy," she whispered, dragging herself from the dumpster. "Had to take an unconventional exit. I'm east side, ground level. We see hostiles converging. Can you reach northwest?" Pressed into shadows, her breath sharp in her throat. Hostiles moved like wolves, sweeping with flashlights, rifles ready. To cross their search grid was suicide. But she had no choice. She slipped into an old security office, peering through a cracked window. The third hostile position came into view, two men with a mounted machine gun, directly covering the SEAL's escape route. Lay thee across the sill, 600 meters, limited exposure, only heads and shoulders visible above sandbags. She inhaled, exhaled, fired. The gunner collapsed over the weapon. His partner grabbed for it. Another shot dropped him before he could aim. "Third position clear," she whispered. "Route is open, move." "Copy that, Overwatch, we're moving." Through her scope she saw them, SEALs emerging from the warehouse, Chief supported between two teammates. Their movements were slow, deliberate, but steady. Scanned, her pulse spiked. On a rooftop, a hostile lifted an RPG. "RPG on the roof," she snapped, firing. The man toppled, launcher clattering harmlessly. "Clear," she added, her heart hammering. The SEALs moved faster, halfway to extraction now. But danger surged again, 3 hostiles advancing from their left, cutting across the open ground. "Reaper 3 incoming from your 9 o'clock, she warned. Her roared, 2 fell. The third dove into cover, returning fire. "Copy," Harmon said. "We'll handle him." Watched one SEAL break formation, flanking with lethal precision. Seconds later, the hostile was down. The team pressed forward. The sound of helicopters rolled over the night, the thump of Black Hawks skimming low. Guardian Force Recon had arrived. "I see them," confirmed, breathless. 2 birds, lights off, coming fast. But her relief shattered as she saw hostiles rushing to intercept. At least 8 between the SEALs and the landing zone. "Reaper, multiple hostiles converging on your extraction point. Too many to clear. I've only got 5 rounds left." There was silence. Then Harmon's voice, steady, unyielding. "Make them count, Overwatch. Take the leaders and heavy weapons. We'll push through the rest." His hands steadied. Her crosshairs locked on the man carrying another RPG. Shot fired, down. She swung to another, the one barking orders. Shot fired, down. The hostiles faltered, their momentum broken. The SEALs surged forward, closing the last meters. Door gunners opened fire from the circling Black Hawk, tearing apart the intercepting force. "Move, move," Guardian's commander barked over the radio. Scope followed the SEALs as they reached the first helicopter. Was lifted aboard, then Harmon, then the others. Relief shuddered through her chest. "All aboard," Guardian reported. "Reaper is secure." "Overwatch, what's your position?" Froze. Her scope swept instinctively across the complex, and her blood ran cold. In the main building, a man was setting up a device. Wires, casing, timer glowing red. "Reaper," she said, her voice breaking, "I see the device. It's armed." The truth crashed down on her like fire. Extraction wasn't the end. This fight wasn't over. And she was still in the middle of it. How do you run when your conscience won't let you? Press the radio close, her words taut with urgency. "Reaper, the device is live. Timer's running. I don't know how long we've got." The helicopter crew confirmed. Guardian actual copies. Overwatch confirmed chemical device armed. "Yes," she whispered, her throat dry. Through the scope she could see the faint glow of the countdown display. Time was bleeding away. "Then we move now," Harmon said. "Guardian, get my men out. Overwatch, where's your position?" Hesitated. She was 300 meters from the extraction bird, enemy search teams between her and safety. Her had only a handful of rounds left. She could make a run for it, but the timer burned in her vision. Guardian's voice was firm. Overwatch, get to the second bird. We've got 5 minutes on station before we're forced to pull out. His hand shook on the radio. Negative, you have to get them out now. Chief needs a medic, you can't wait for me. Harmon's reply came sharp. We don't leave our own behind. Her chest tightened. I'm not one of yours, I'm just a college student who shouldn't even be here. Get them home. Silence followed, then Guardian broke it. Second bird holds for 5 minutes. After that, we're gone. Overwatch, make it if you can. Stared through the scope again. The hostile at the device adjusted wires with calm precision. Behind him, others hauled crates, chemical dispersal units, ready to move if the timer didn't trigger here. She swallowed hard. Running meant survival, but survival wasn't the same as living. Her grandfather's words whispered inside her. A guardian doesn't choose the easy path, little bird. A guardian stands where others cannot. Wiped her face with the back of her hand, grit mixing with sweat. She slung the across her back, drew the sidearm Colonel Harrison had given her, and began to move. The complex seethed with enemy patrols. She hugged shadows, every nerve taut, her breath shallow. Voices in Russian echoed off concrete. Flashlight beams carved the dark. Twice, she froze flat against walls as patrols passed within arm's reach. Overwatch status, Harmon's voice cracked in her ear. Moving, she whispered, trying to reach the second bird. You're cutting it close, birds are spooling. She didn't answer, her eyes fixed on the helicopter 100 meters ahead. And then disaster, one hostile stepped into her path, weapon raised. Reacted before thought, 2 shots snapped from her SIG, the man fell. The gunfire was a flare in the dark, drawing shouts from every direction. I'm compromised, she shouted into the radio. Hostiles converging, making a run for it. Guardian copies, we've got you in sight, door gunner covering. The On the Black Hawk erupted, spitting fire into the night. Hostiles dropped under the storm. Ran, her lungs tearing, her legs burning. The helicopter loomed closer. A Marine leaned out, hand extended. 10 meters, he shouted, come on. Bullets sparked around her, kicking dirt at her boots. Pushed harder. 5 meters. She leapt, fingers catching the Marine's hand. He hauled her bodily into the helicopter as it lifted, bullets chasing them into the sky. I've got her, he roared. The door gunner kept firing as the bird banked hard. Collapsed onto the floor, chest heaving, ears ringing. You okay, ma'am? The Marine shouted over the rotors. She nodded, voice gone. Her whole body trembled as adrenaline drained. Overwatch, this is Reaper, Harmon's voice came, ragged but steady. Glad you made it, that was one hell of a run. Forced words through dry lips. How? Stable, medic says he'll make it. He'll be at that graduation. The relief nearly broke her. She leaned back, pressing her hands over her face, tears leaking through her fingers. Then the world outside lit up. A blinding flash, followed by a shockwave that rocked the helicopter even at distance. The chemical device detonated in the industrial complex, a fireball blooming against the night sky. Guardian actual all stations, the pilot's voice cut in. Be advised, device has detonated, premature activation, minimal dispersal contained to the site. Stomach twisted, premature, not deployed where it was intended. If SEAL Team 7 hadn't stumbled on that site, if she hadn't answered the phone, if she hadn't fired when she did, Seattle would have burned. The reality sank into her bones. She hadn't just saved 6 men. She stopped a catastrophe. As the helicopter sped toward the extraction base, stared at the glowing plume behind them, she thought of her parents, their gentle belief in nonviolence, their certainty that every problem could be solved with dialogue. She had wanted to believe it too, but some nights, she realized, only a rifle in steady hands could keep the world from tearing itself apart. At the base, floodlights bathed the landing zone. Medical teams rushed forward, pulling onto a stretcher, checking the others. Intelligence officers shouted questions, snapping photos, collecting evidence. Stepped down on shaky legs. The ground felt foreign, as if she no longer belonged to it. She wasn't the same girl who'd walked into the library that afternoon. Colonel Harrison approached. "Miss, are you injured?" She shook her head, though her body ached everywhere. He studied her with something between awe and guilt. "I've been in this business 30 years. I've never seen anything like what you just did. Civilian, no training, holding Overwatch for a SEAL team against a hostile cell. You weren't just good, you were indispensable." Lowered her eyes. "I just did what needed to be done." Harrison nodded slowly. "That's what separates heroes from everyone else. Not training, not rank, just the willingness to step forward when no one else can." He guided her into a briefing room. Maps covered one wall, crates of captured gear lined another. A man in a suit approached, sharp, controlled, CIA written all over him. "Miss," he said, extending his hand. "Director, our analysis confirms that device contained a nerve agent. If deployed, casualties would have been catastrophic. NATO's summit in Seattle was the target. Thousands of lives, maybe tens of thousands, and tonight you stopped it." Shook his hand, numb. Thousands of lives. She had been worried about passing an exam. Now she was carrying the weight of survival for strangers she'd never meet. The debrief dragged for hours. Every shot, every observation, every detail spilled from her in a monotone, her mind replaying the night in fragments. Thermal images of men falling, the burning sprint to the helicopter, the glow of the detonation. And then the door opened. Chief stepped in, his arm in a sling, face pale but eyes bright. "Miss," he said, his voice steady, "I just wanted to thank you in person. Medic says I'll recover. My daughter will have her father at her graduation, because of you." Swallowed hard, fighting the lump in her throat. "I'm glad, Chief. She deserves that." "Not as much as you deserve recognition," said. "Most trained operators couldn't have done what you did." Before could respond, another figure entered, old, weathered, eyes sharp as flint. William Iron Bill. Her grandfather. "Little bird," he murmured, crossing the room in 3 strides. He wrapped her in his arms. For the first time all night, let herself cry. The tears weren't for fear or regret. They were for the undeniable truth that she had found herself, not in a classroom, not in her parents' ideals, but here, in the crucible of fire and choices that couldn't be undone. When she finally pulled back, Iron Bill's gaze held hers. "You stood between the darkness and the light," he whispered, "and you didn't break." Wiped her cheeks, exhausted but steady. She wasn't just a student anymore, not just a daughter, not even just a sniper. She was Overwatch. What do you say to parents who raised you to heal the world, when you've just taken lives to save it? Sat in the back of a transport van, Portland's skyline reappearing through the windshield. The night had thinned toward dawn, streaks of gray painting the horizon. She hadn't slept. Couldn't. Every time her eyes closed, she saw them again, the flashes in her scope, the bodies falling. Iron Bill sat beside her, arms crossed, jaw tight. He hadn't spoken since they left the base. His presence was both a comfort and a weight. Finally broke the silence. "They're going to find out." Her grandfather's gaze slid to hers. "You mean your parents?" She nodded. "How do I explain to them that I killed 4, 5 men? That I stopped a chemical attack with a rifle instead of words? They raised me to believe violence was never the answer." Iron Bill's eyes softened, though his voice stayed steady. "They raised you to value life, and that's exactly what you did. Don't mistake the method for the meaning." Turned her face to the window, the city blurring past. She wasn't sure her parents would see it that way. When the van stopped at her apartment, Iron Bill squeezed her shoulder. "I'll be around, but this conversation, you have to own it." She climbed the steps on trembling legs, her key fumbling in the lock. Inside, The familiar smell of coffee and lavender air freshener hit her like a memory of another life. Sarah, her roommate, stirred on the couch, blinking awake. She mumbled, "Where the hell have you been? I thought you were pulling an all-nighter in the library." Froze, what could she say? That she'd spent the night killing men with military precision. That she'd been running through gunfire while Sarah dreamed on the couch. "Yeah," said softly. "Library, lost track of time." Sarah groaned and rolled over. "You're insane. Big test today. You better ace it after all that." Forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She went straight to her room, closed the door, and slid down the wall. Her body trembled with the weight of the lie. She should have been relieved. The seals were alive. The attack was stopped. But guilt pressed against her ribs, stealing her breath. She wasn't the girl her parents thought she was. She wasn't even the girl she thought she was. Later that day, sat across from her parents at their kitchen table. They had driven down after her mother insisted on a family dinner. Bowls of lentil stew and warm bread filled the air with homely comfort, but stomach clenched. Her mother smiled. "So how are finals going?" Stared into her bowl. "Fine." Her father leaned forward, concern shadowing his face. "You seem tired. More than finals tired. Is something wrong?" His throat closed. Words clawed for release, but fear held them back. If she told them, they would see her as a stranger, a betrayer of everything they stood for. Her mother reached across the table, taking her hand. "Whatever it is, you can tell us. We'll understand." And for the first time in her life, didn't believe her. "I'm just stressed," she whispered. "It's nothing." The lie burned, but the truth felt impossible. That night she sat awake at her desk, textbooks open but unread. The phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her chest tightened. She answered. "Overwatch," Harmon's voice came, rough but alive. His heart jolted. "Lieutenant. I just wanted to say thank you again. We made it back." Is already joking about his hospital food. "The team's alive because of you. We won't forget it." His eyes stung. "I'm glad you're safe. That's all that matters." There was a pause. Then Harmon said, "Command wants to keep this quiet. No press. No recognition, you understand?" "Yeah," she said softly. "I understand." "Doesn't mean you're forgotten," he added. "If you ever need us, ever, you call. You're one of us now, whether you believe it or not." When the line went dead, sat in silence, the weight of his words pressing against her chest. One of us. She wasn't sure if that was a comfort or a curse. Days passed. Finals came and went. Aced them, though she barely remembered sitting in the exam halls. Her friends celebrated with drinks and laughter. She smiled, she joined, but inside she was distant, detached. At night the dreams came. The crosshairs lining up, the stillness of her breath, the crack of the rifle, the silence afterward. And the question that gnawed at her, was it right? Or had she simply traded one set of sins for another? One evening, Iron Bill found her at his ranch, sitting on the porch with the across her knees. "Can't sleep?" he asked. She shook her head. "Every time I close my eyes, I see them, and I don't know if I'm supposed to feel proud or broken." Her grandfather lowered himself into the chair beside her. "Both. That's the price of carrying a rifle. You never lose the weight of it. You just learn to live with it." Looked at him, her voice breaking. "How did you live with it all those years?" Iron Bill sighed, eyes on the horizon. "By remembering that every shot I took was to protect someone else. I never celebrated. I never forgot. But I never let guilt blind me to the lives saved." Swallowed hard. "And if I can't carry it, if it breaks me?" "Then you lay it down," he said gently. "But don't let anyone else decide that for you. Not me. Not your parents, not the Navy. You find your own answer, little bird." The words settled into her bones, heavy but true. As summer wore on, tried to return to normal. Study, volunteer work, campus routines. But normal didn't fit anymore. She noticed exits in every room, angles of approach on every street. She scanned rooftops instinctively, her mind calculating. And sometimes, in the quiet moments, she wondered if her parents would still recognize the daughter they had raised, or if the girl who sat at their table was just a ghost of who she used to be. But one truth was already clear. She could never go back to the world as it was before that night. She was Overwatch now, and the world was about to find out that she couldn't be put back in a box. What happens when the war you thought was over follows you home? Was trying to pretend she was just another college student again. Pretend the library, the exams, the volunteer shifts at the hospital could stitch her back into the life she once knew. But beneath every smile, every nod, the truth pressed against her ribs. She wasn't just anymore. She was Overwatch. Weeks had passed since that night. Finals ended, grades posted. She aced everything. On paper, she was flawless. Inside, she was unraveling. Her parents beamed when they saw her GPA. "You're on your way to med school," her mother said proudly. Her father squeezed her shoulder, eyes warm with faith. They thought she was tired from studying. They had no idea their daughter's sleepless nights came from reliving muzzle flashes and blood on concrete. Then one afternoon her phone rang again, same unknown number. Her stomach tightened as she answered. It was Harrison. The colonel's voice was steady but urgent. "Miss, we have a situation." She closed her eyes. "No, not again. I wouldn't call if it wasn't critical. You stopped one attack, but the network isn't gone. They know about you, and they want payback." Froze. "What do you mean they know about me?" Harrison exhaled. "Captured comms. Your position that night, the shots. They know an unknown sniper disrupted the operation. They're calling you the ghost girl, and they've sent someone to find you." Her pulse surged. "You're telling me I'm a target now?" "Not just you," Harrison said grimly. "They'll look for anyone close to you. That includes your parents, your roommate." The blood drained from her face. "Miss, listen. We can move you into protective custody, witness program, but that life, you'll vanish. Your parents will never see you the same way again." His breath shook. She thought of Sarah sleeping on the couch, her parents' proud smiles, the danger she'd brought to their doorstep. "What are my options?" she whispered. Harrison's answer was blunt: fight or hide. She hung up without replying. That night she sat in her dorm, hands shaking as she loaded for the first time since the mission. She didn't want this life, but wanting didn't matter. The war had followed her home. Days later it came. Was leaving a late shift at the hospital when she noticed the van, parked across the street. No plates, windows too dark. She quickened her pace. The van's engine growled to life. Her instincts screamed. She cut left, ducking into an alley. Boots pounded behind her. Foreign voices barked commands. Her chest burned as she sprinted, mind flashing to her parents. If they found her, they'd find them. She dove into a service stairwell, slammed the door, and pressed her back against the cold steel. Heart racing, lungs on fire. Her phone buzzed, a single text from an unknown number. "We can see you, ghost girl." His blood ran cold. She didn't go home that night. Instead, she called the only person who wouldn't hesitate. Iron Bill answered on the second ring. "Little bird." "They found me, Grandpa." Silence, then steel. "Come to the ranch now." When she arrived, the old Marine already had rifles laid out on the table, maps spread across the counter. "They won't stop," he said. "Not until they've evened the score. That's how these cells work. You embarrassed them. You broke their chain of command. You made it personal." His throat tightened. "So what do we do?" Iron Bill's eyes met hers. "We hunt them first." The words hit like thunder. She wanted to protest, to cling to her parents' teachings. But she remembered the van, the boots on asphalt, the text message. They wouldn't just disappear. Her hands shook as she gripped the "Where do we start?" Bill slid a photo across the table. Grainy, taken from surveillance. A man with cheeks and cold eyes. Bill said, "X, they've sent him to find you. He's good, too good to underestimate." studied the photo. This wasn't a faceless target. This was someone sent to end her. Her voice came quiet but steady. Then I'll be ready. For the next week, Iron Bill drilled her harder than ever before, long-range shooting under stress, moving silently across terrain, surviving on instinct. She had been good before. Now she was becoming something else. But no training could erase the knot in her chest. She didn't want this life. And yet, as her grandfather reminded her, sometimes we don't choose the fight chooses us. The first confrontation came sooner than expected. It was midnight when the ranch dogs barked, low and furious. Bill grabbed his rifle, motioned down. Through night vision, they saw 3 figures cutting across the pasture, armed, professional. Bill whispered, "Not scouts." Pulse thundered, they were here. The first shot was hers, clean, silent. One man down, the others froze, then chaos. Gunfire tore through the night. Bill dropped another, caught the third before he could flank. Silence returned, heavy and suffocating. Bill exhaled. They're probing, testing your defenses, won't be far behind. His hands trembled as she lowered her rifle. She killed again. But this time there was no SEAL team to save. This time it was her life or theirs. That night she lay awake staring at the ceiling, the truth searing through her. She couldn't hide anymore. She couldn't pretend she was just a student. She had become something else. And she wasn't sure if she hated it, or if part of her had been waiting for it all along. How long can you run before the fight finds you face to face? Lay prone in the hayloft of her grandfather's barn, the balanced against the rafters, her scope sweeping the dark pasture. Every shadow seemed alive. Every whisper of wind against the grass made her finger tighten. Was out there, she could feel it. For a week the cat-and-mouse game had escalated, vehicles trailing her on back roads, drones buzzing overhead, phone calls with silence on the other end, and always the knowledge that was closing in. Her grandfather had warned her. Hunter by nature, he'll test your nerves. He'll come when you're tired, when you're second-guessing. Don't give him that chance. But fatigue was already gnawing at her. Every night on edge. Every day pretending to be normal. Her parents thought she was buried in summer research. Sarah believed she was at the ranch helping with chores. None of them knew she was locked in a duel with a ghost. The first shot came just before dawn. A suppressed crack, wood splintering inches from her head. Rolled instinctively, heart hammering. "Contact," she hissed into the radio. Iron Bill's voice answered, calm but sharp. "North tree line, he's probing." Scrambled to the other side of the loft, eyes sweeping through the scope. She caught the faintest flicker, movement low to the ground, the silhouette of a man crawling with precision. Yep. She steadied her breath, lining him up. But before she could fire, he vanished behind a mound of earth. A second shot tore through the barn wall, forcing her down. "He's playing you," Bill warned. "Don't chase shadows, make him show himself." Clenched her jaw, every instinct screamed to fire back to end it, but she forced herself to wait. Minutes stretched into hours. The sun rose, painting the fields in pale gold. The silence was worse than the gunfire. Finally, Bill's voice came again. "Little bird, he's not going to quit, and he won't come in loud, he'll want it close, personal." Stomach tightened. She trained for long range. She wasn't ready for close quarters. That night the attack came. Was in the kitchen, pouring coffee, when the window shattered. Rolled across the floor. The world went white with sound and light. Her ears rang, vision blurred. She dropped, fumbling for her sidearm. Through the haze a shadow loomed, broad, deliberate. Yep. He moved with terrifying precision, his boot slamming her wrist, her pistol skidding away. Gasped, scrambling back, her body trembling. "You are Ghost Girl," his accented voice growled. "You cost me brothers, tonight I balance." He raised his rifle. But before he could fire, another gunshot split the air. Staggered, hit in the shoulder. Iron Bill burst through the doorway, rifle blazing. Get down, little bird. Dove behind the counter as bullets shredded the walls. Dropped smoke, the room filling with choking gray. By the time it cleared, he was gone, leaving blood, broken glass, and silence. His hands shook violently as Bill helped her to her feet. "You okay?" he asked, eyes scanning her for wounds. She nodded, though her voice trembled. "He could killed me." Bill's expression hardened. He doesn't want quick, he wants fear. He wants you broken before the end. His chest tightened. Then how do we stop him? Bill loaded a fresh magazine, his voice flat. "We hunt him before he hunts us." For the next 2 days they prepared. Sensors on the perimeter, cameras hidden in trees, studied file until she could recite it by heart. Ex-survivalist, expert marksman, fought in Chechnya, Syria, rumored to have killed entire teams alone. But she also saw something else in his pattern pride. He liked to finish close, to look his target in the eye. So she set a trap. That night she positioned herself in the old silo, the braced against the cracked concrete wall. A mannequin in her jacket lay prone in the barn loft, bait. Iron Bill circled the perimeter, silent as a shadow. Hours passed, then movement. Scope caught it, low, deliberate, circling the barn. He moved like a predator, eyes locked on the decoy in the loft. Her heart pounded. She could end it here, one shot. But her finger froze. This wasn't steel at the range. This was a man she was about to kill from 600 meters away. Climbed the outer wall, blade drawn for the silent kill. He slipped into the loft and froze when the mannequin failed to breathe. Exhaled now. Her shot thundered, staggered, hit in the side, but he didn't fall. He spun, firing blindly into the silo. Rounds ricocheted, stone splintering. Ducked, ears ringing. When she looked again, was gone. "Contact," she shouted. Bill's voice cut in, urgent. "He's moving toward the tree line, wounded but fast." Scrambled down from the silo, adrenaline roaring. She couldn't let him vanish again. She ran across the field, rifle slamming against her shoulder. In the distance, she saw him stumble, clutching his side. He turned, eyes locking with hers across the grass. For a moment time froze, 2 hunters, 2 ghosts. Then raised his pistol. Fired first. The shot punched him off his feet. He collapsed still, the pistol falling from his hand. Silence spread across the field. Stood trembling, her rifle still aimed, breath ragged. Slowly she lowered it. She had done it. Bill reached her side, eyes sharp. He nudged his body, confirmed the stillness. Then he looked at her. "It's over." Stomach churned. The victory felt hollow. Eyes were still open, staring at the sky, frozen in surprise. She had won, but the cost was written in every heartbeat of silence. That night she sat on the porch, unable to touch her dinner. Bill sat beside her, quiet. Finally whispered, "Why does it feel like every time I save myself, I lose a piece of me?" Bill sighed. "Because you're human, and the day it doesn't weigh on you, that's the day you've lost everything." Nodded, tears burning her eyes. She didn't know if she was proud or broken, maybe both. But one truth cut through the haze. She had faced the man sent to break her, and she hadn't broken. Not yet. What do you become when the fight doesn't leave you, but lives inside you? Stared at her reflection in the ranch's bathroom mirror. Her face was pale, her eyes hollow. There was blood under her nails, blood, though she'd washed her hands 3 times already. Her mind replayed it again, his eyes locking with hers, the pistol rising, her shot dropping him. She should have felt relief. Instead, she felt emptied. Behind her, the door creaked. Iron Bill's voice low. "Little bird, you can't wash it away, but you can learn to carry it." Gripped the sink. What if I don't want to carry it? What if I just want my life back? Bill stepped closer, resting a calloused hand on her shoulder. "You can't go back, you never can, but you get to choose what you do with who you are now. That's what matters." The words echoed in her chest long after he left. Days turned into weeks. News of death never reached the public. To the world, nothing had happened. Everything had changed. Classes resumed. She went back to campus, sitting in lecture halls where professors droned about enzyme kinetics and lab safety. Her classmates took notes, doodled in the margins, whispered about parties. Sat still, quiet, staring at the equations like they were written in a language she'd forgotten. Every window became a possible sniper perch. Every shadow could hide an enemy. She had become, her mind calculating angles and cover where no danger existed. Sarah noticed first. "You're jumpy, you don't sleep, you don't eat. What's going on with you?" Forced a smile, "Just stress." But Sarah wasn't convinced. "This is more than stress. You look like you're fighting a war no one else can see." His throat tightened. She wanted to tell her. She wanted someone, anyone, to know what she'd carried. But she couldn't risk dragging Sarah into that world. So she just said, "I'll be fine." The lie sat heavy, like all the others. One evening after volunteering at the hospital, she walked home through campus. The night was cool, quiet. Students laughed in clusters, the air light with freedom. And for a moment their innocence, their certainty that tomorrow was just another day. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. She said softly. It was Harmon. His voice carried the same steel, the same weight she remembered. Overwatch. Her chest tightened at the name. "Lieutenant." "I'll keep this short. Intel confirmed. His death crippled the cell. Operations collapsed. You closed the book on them." Exhaled, "So it's over." "For now," Harmon said. Then, after a pause, "We don't forget what you did. You're part of us now, and there may come a day we need you again." Swallowed. "And if I say no?" "Then you walk away. No one will stop you, but you'll always know what you're capable of. That knowledge doesn't leave." The line clicked dead, leaving her alone with the weight of his words. She walked on, her footsteps echoing against the pavement. A part of her longed to bury it all, to live the life her parents dreamed for her. Doctor, healer, normal. But another part, the part that had held the steady, that had faced eyes without flinching, knew she couldn't pretend forever. That night she visited her parents. They sat at the table, candles burning low, the same peace-filled house she'd grown up in. Her mother smiled warmly. "How's school, sweetheart?" Looked at them, her chest aching. She wanted to tell them everything. The shots, the blood, the nights she'd wondered if she was becoming a killer instead of a healer. But their faces were so full of hope, of trust. She couldn't shatter it. So she just said, "It's fine." After dinner, her father walked her to the car. He paused, studying her. "You've changed. You carry yourself differently, stronger, heavier. I don't know what you've been through, but I want you to know you don't have to carry it alone." Tears stung her eyes. She hugged him tight, holding on longer than usual. She didn't answer. Some truths were too heavy for words. Later, back at the ranch, sat on the porch beside her grandfather. The stars burned overhead, cold and endless. "You did what needed to be done," Bill said quietly. "But the real question is, what will you do now?" Thought about it. About the lives she'd saved, the lives she'd taken, the person she was becoming. She didn't have a clear answer, but maybe she didn't need one yet. "Maybe I'll keep studying," she whispered. "Maybe I'll still heal people, but if the world calls again, I won't run." Bill nodded, pride flickering in his eyes. That's all anyone can ask, to face the call with courage, to stand even when it costs. Leaned back, staring at the stars. She thought of the seals alive because of her, of his daughter waiting for her father, of the city saved from the chemical attack. And she thought of, eyes locked with hers, the last test of her resolve. The silence stretched, heavy and peaceful, and in it she realized something. She wasn't just a student, she wasn't just a sniper, she wasn't even just Overwatch. She was someone who had chosen, in the moment of truth, to act. And sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts.